handsome-looking group here today.
I tell you.
We have two site plans? Okay, Mr. McCarthy, would you open us up, please?
Sure. November 5th, all members present.
Okay,
Election day, don't forget to vote.
You allowed to say
Absolutely. I'm not telling you who to vote for.
okay, we'll do the site plans first. Gentlemen?
Good morning, Supervisor and members of Town Board. David Barnes and Liam Trotta representing the Planning Department. We have two site plan applications on your agenda today as Board of Site Plan Review. The first one being for the installation of wireless antennas by Verizon, 395 Moreland Road in the Industrial Park. Is to install 9 wireless panels within 2 enclosures on the rooftop of a building within the Industrial Park at 395 Moreland Road. The only condition that we have on this application is that prior to start of construction, they obtain a building permit. We have, here's the subject site. It's at the corner of Moreland Road and Wireless Boulevard. Here's the site plan showing the yellow dots are the locations of the equipment on the
These are
rooftop.
The pro forma rooftop antennas, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And they have a color rendering. Here's a photo of the building beforehand. And here is a simulated of what it'll look like. It'll be matching cabinets, little structures on the rooftop to hide them.
Okay.
What, about 3 feet above the roof line, that's it?
They're 6.5 feet above the roof line.
6.5, okay.
But the total building will be 40 feet high. And the permitted height in this district is 50, so
50,
they're well
okay.
within the requirements.
Okay. Any questions by the board?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is for the Wendy's Restaurant in Comac on Jericho Turnpike. The proposal is for the demolition of the existing 3,110 square foot counter service restaurant and the reconstruction of a new 2,345 square foot Wendy's restaurant with associated site work. The applicant has agreed to 3 conditions of approval. Number 1, that they obtain a building permit. The second condition, that they install a tree preservation fence around all trees to be preserved. And the third, that they obtain a highway work permit from New York State DOT for improvements along Jericho Turnpike. This is the proposed site plan. It's basically a reconfiguration of the building location, the parking lot, drive-through. And the next, this is a site plan aerial overlay. You can see the yellow outline is the existing building, and then the red is where the proposed location is going to be. We feel that there would be better circulation with the drive-through.
It's
and
better parking and everything
Yeah,
off
yeah.
Comac Road.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then this is the proposed rendering of the architecture of the building. Any
Okay.
questions?
Very
We
good.
just want to make it
job.
look better, is that it?
Well, they're moving it to, in-
Yeah, they're shifting the
Off Comac.
location of the building, right, on the west side of the building, it's a little tight, so it's,
Okay.
better configuration of the site.
That's a busy Wendy's, too.
It is,
Oh,
yeah.
gosh, my daughter's going
Yeah,
to be
no
very
doubt.
upset for the temporary close.
Hopefully be quick.
any other questions?
No,
Yep, it's good.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
good job as always.
Okay. I have a couple issues this morning that we can go over, and Matt'll also give us some information on. One, I'll have Matt explain to you, we talked about this before, we want to amend the code for the permits for special events to go back to the original so that we are actually receiving a permit, the clerk will receive it, he'll bring it up here, we'll hear it, and then it'll go on the agenda, resolution to vote on it. What's happening is, I think we all know, when this amendment was made to change this, the result of that is these events don't take place for 6 months after these people make application. So they put the signs up, 6 months later, they're closing roads in these people's neighborhoods. They don't even remember that they heard this
Right.
special event. So, that's the proposal, to just move it back to, and I'll let Matt explain how we, crafted the amendment.
Sure. So these regulations would apply for special events, parades, walk runs. It's all the same for any type of event. Right now, we have, the application is filed 6 months in advance. We're going to reduce that to 60 days. We have one affidavit of posting, which was problematic because it was 6 months in advance, people would forget about it. We're going to do 2 postings, one at the time that the application is submitted, the second 10 days prior to the event. We're going from 3 readings before the town board to 1 reading, and we're going to, after that, the town board is not going to issue the permit. We're going to allow the town clerk to issue the permit. So it streamlines the entire process.
Sounds good.
Any questions? Because it was just too complicated. Many complaints come in because they go to do something on a Saturday morning and they're out there closing the road down, and they don't even know why.
No, that posting, the second
Sounds
posting
good.
10 days before is a really good idea.
Yeah, this way, it's a reminder, so it'll make it more seamless. All right.
Sound like a plan?
Also, the 2-acre parcel at the Kings Park Synagogue, we spoke about in the past about purchasing that, had it appraised, so I'll let Matt fill you in on, we're getting very close to acquiring the property.
Yeah, right now, because it's a not-for-profit, it's subject to approval by the Attorney General. So we're working with the synagogue on doing the petition to the state to authorize the sale, and then we can get moving forward.
This is property that we want to use for parking for the highway, or is this got to do
No,
with
it's
the
By the
gonna
sewer?
Parks
be-
Department.
It's gonna be additional
the
storage for
parks.
parks, right? Correct. Okay. That's all I have, everything else I have is, I have 2 matters for executive, contractual, and also litigation. Anybody else?
I am,
Okay, Mr. Musnug, we have our Controller, Don, and Paul Urbano come up, please, is gonna give us a presentation about auditing firms.
And I have Kathy Court here as well.
Kathy? Okay.
Our deputy controller, but she's not gonna, she's gonna come later on.
Okay.
Acknowledge her presence. Okay. Morning, members of the town board. Don Musnug, controller, and Paul Rabano, budget director.
sir.
Paul's going to present the 2020 capital plan to you and also pass out the 21 through 24 multi-year plan.
Thanks, Paul.
I'll provide the overview.
Okay, we're gonna do that first, we'll do the capital first,
Yes.
and then, okay, good.
And you have them in front of you. Supervisor, you have a paper clip on yours. I'm also passed out my transcript that you can follow my comments. So Paul has passed out the 2020 capital plan and the multi-year plan. The process started with the submission of department requests for projects to be started in 2020. So this is built up from the bottom up. The department heads submit the requests to the controller's office, and we compile them and put it into format for a capital plan. Additional projects were also identified for the 21 through 24 years by the department heads as well. And today, the town board is voting on the 2020 capital projects. The 2021 through 2024 is just a guide for future reference and direction as to how much future borrowings might be and future projects might be. Paul Rabano and I met with the supervisor 2 times and reviewed the projects with him. The supervisor then met with selected department directors and finalized the plan with Paul and myself. I wanted to highlight, and before you here is the 2020 budget, and you'll see if you turn to the back page that all of these projects amount up to potentially $10,200,500. Significantly in this is that 72% of the proposed borrowing is related to Flynn Memorial Park, $4.5 million, and the St. James Water District, $2.6 million for the replacement of water mains. So the total borrowing to be authorized today is $10.2 million. But we are recommending that we do not borrow for the Gedney Avenue project for several reasons. One, There's an ongoing project run by engineering department that could eliminate the need for this project. And by borrowing more than $10 million, the debt would be a non-qualified bank debt under IRS regulations. And what does that mean? It means that the banks don't get a tax deduction for the interest that they claim, so that it might add some extra basis points to the debt. So by not borrowing for the Gedney Avenue, authorizing it but not borrowing for it, that would bring us down to $9.9 million. If the Gedney Avenue project is necessary, the town could self-fund it. And because you're authorizing it today, we could reimburse ourselves at a later date when we go out to borrow in the following year. And the debt service payments at the $9.9 million level has already been factored into the 2020 budget. Just to acknowledge that I think this borrowing is unusually high for the town of Smithtown at $9.9 million. It represents one full year of borrowing at $8.4 million, but there's an additional $1.8 million that we delayed from the 2018 capital plan, and we're borrowing for that in 2019 because we didn't need the funding at that time during 2018, or during 2019. So we're going to borrow for it come this January or February when we go out to issue for the bonds this year. So it almost represents a year and a half worth of capital projects. And if not for the Flynn Memorial Park borrowing and the Water District borrowing, the amount borrowed would have been $3.9 million, which is much more in line with our past borrowing amounts.
Yeah, but you know what, Don? You're right, and it's nice to say we borrowed less, but there comes a time where if you don't fix the roof, you're gonna get a leak.
You're exactly, deferred maintenance and kicking the can down the road is not the best way to manage your financial affairs. And I commend the board for addressing these
Yeah,
issues
It's gotta be done.
that you're doing. I do forecast that as these major projects are completed, future borrowings will be more in line with past borrowing levels. There are two projects that I think are very much in line with the town's approach to approving capital plans. That being the Flynn Memorial Park enhancement requested by Parks, Buildings, and Grounds Director Joe Arrico and spearheaded by Supervisor Wareheim, and a very exciting new project requested by our Traffic Safety Department led by Mitch Crowley. At Flynn Memorial Park, the plans call for synthetic turf that will save the town a significant amount of time and labor by not having to mow and maintain the grass, as well as a significant savings from far less irrigation costs, not to mention the environmental benefit of using less water. And Supervisor, I don't know if you wanted to comment on the Flynn Memorial Park at this
Well,
point?
I think we've discussed it before. This project certainly is gonna reap a fair amount of savings just with labor alone in that park. That's 4 ball fields, there's acres of grass that have to be cut at least twice a week. That will not take place now, and the water's a big issue. The cost of water has gone up exorbitantly in the past 2 or 3 years. We noticed it even with our water parks, how the bills have increased. The other flip side of it is, as we discussed, we feel this is going to wind up, when completed, this will result in a revenue stream as well. We've had those discussions with USSSA softball. They've indicated they would love to come back to Long Island, specifically Smithtown. There are huge fees that are put in place for them to use those facilities. They know that, they're willing to do it. So all in all, I think as a board and discussing it with the Comptroller's Office, I think this is a well worthwhile project moving into the future. As well as our own residents and young Little Leaguers who are gonna play are gonna be able to play in a facility that I'm told by experts in the field will be the only facility like that on all of Long Island. So we're gonna be, I think Smithtown's gonna be very proud of that facility when it's done.
And I also think, you know, wherever I go someplace, if I'm not familiar, what do we all do? Let's Google and see where there's a restaurant or a diner nearby.
Yeah.
Do I need to say any more?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in our discussions.
So when out-of-towners come to the Flynn Memorial Park for their
In our
softball.
discussions, we
Downtown
discussed that.
revitalization.
And many people don't remember back in the mid-'80s when USSSA used Smithtown for their East Coast playoffs. They used Flynn Memorial at the time, Kings Park Memorial, Gaynor Park in St. James, and Gibbs Pond in Wisconsin. But they came from Virginia, from Maine to Virginia. They brought all their families with them for an entire week. So it's also, as Councilwoman Noak said, it's a huge boost to the
Yeah.
economy as well.
Well, let's
They
find a
stayed,
donor.
they used restaurants, stationery stores, delis, so Phil, it's well worthwhile.
Sure.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
less fertilizer as well, less nitrogen into
Yeah,
the groundwater,
exactly.
Oh,
so
yeah. No, it's a good
good things. Perhaps one of the most exciting new projects that I mentioned prior is the multi-year project, Central Communications System for Traffic Signals, called Smart City Monitoring System. The first phase of the 5 phases is to install the tower to interface with the 10 existing traffic signals, which have cameras and thermal detection devices. The goal of the system is to improve the effectiveness and response time for faulty signals and to allow traffic staff to monitor in real time and adjust the timing if needed for signal operations based on real-time observations. The system can also be used to install cameras at any location the town wishes to monitor for such issues as flooding and traffic flow, etc. Both of these projects reflect the trend of using new techniques and technology to work more effectively and efficiently. If there's any projects that you would like me to review on the 2020, I'm prepared to discuss any of them, depending on how much time you want to spend on it. We're also proposing to adopt this November 25th.
Correct.
21st, I think.
21st.
And so if there's any questions during that time period when you review the capital plan, would you like me to review them or not?
Does anybody have,
Pretty good.
Yeah, those were the highlights. I think the
Yeah.
rest are pretty
Self-explanatory.
routine, yeah.
I think the board has had, they've had an overview of it, and as you said, we have time to review it. If anyone requires any clarification, just let us know.
The only other one is the 2021 through 2024. It's just a few highlights on that. The first item is the solar farm development, and that's just a study to be performed for siting a solar farm, possibly at the landfill. That'll be determined after the study is completed. There's also the reconstruction of the marina beginning in 2021, and further improvements at the Smithtown Landing Country Club, also beginning in 2021, and many other routine maintenance projects. There's also upgrading of security measures throughout town buildings and the continuation, and I'd like to highlight that, the continuation of the Smart City Monitoring System. That's on the second page, and that's TR 20.4. And it shows 2021 adding 209,000, 2022 174 for those next 3 years. And what that's going to do is allow Traffic Safety Director Crowley to monitor those traffic lights and the traffic flow at those locations and speed. He can time the timing of when the lights change colors, green and red and such like that, and it improves traffic flow, and then as well as having visual sightings there for various other security reasons as well.
Right. I would suggest, I know Paul, Don, and myself sat with Mitchell. We feel there's another initiative that's really going to advance us into the future with all of those issues. Be a great tool for Highway Department as well, so we can see what's going on there in real time. So what I would suggest is call Mitch, have him come over one day perhaps and explain it. But it's, instead of doing it all at once, of course, we phased it in like we're trying to do with most things. So Don and Paul have put this through the budget, but at the end of the day, 3 or 4 years from now, I think that system's gonna be wonderful for the town.
No, it ties in to other programs that Mitch is looking for, and that's the preemption program, which is for emergency service vehicles. That'll all tie in where they hit intersections. The lights automatically turn green for the oncoming emergency vehicle and red for the opposing vehicles. But we've met with Mr. Murphy and Mitch, and as far as the highway utilizing this system for, suspect areas where they're continually flooding, he'll have advance notice there. And it's really using technology to, as we've already discussed here, moving the flow of traffic much more easily and expeditiously. When there's issues, we're able to address it, so. And it's like everything else on our capital, program that I look at. We're addressing things that haven't been done in many, many years, and we have to do it. So I think we're doing it incrementally, we're doing it the right way, and we're reinvesting back into our community. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing, so I think it's a great capital program.
The cost to the taxpayers, just to put it in perspective, on a home valued at $5,500 assessed value, for the general fund, it amounts to $10.81 for this project, for this entire plan. The outside village is $1.50, highway, $1.72. The only one that's significant really is St. James Water District. That's because there's only 3,400 ratepayers. So
right.
therefore, if you get new water mains, it's gonna cost you $55
Right.
a year for the rest of the years. And then the long-range plan, the 21 through 2024, similar numbers, $14 for the general fund, if you were to do them all, which is probably not likely.
Right.
Outside village, $5, and highway, $11. So I think the residents of, my opinion, the Smithtown residents would be inclined to have these great improvements done at that kind of cost.
Yeah.
And we're borrowing at historically low rates. I can't believe the rates still keep going down. I thought for sure the rates would be up higher this year and next year.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't jinx
but-
it, Don,
No, don't
jinx
jinx it, yes, all right.
And-
Somehow or another, I don't think my opinion will weigh in on it, Councilman.
it. Don't jinx it.
And at the completion of the budget, which we already voted for in the operating budget, that it would appear, I commend Don and Paul and Kathy and his department over there, that it would appear that we'll retain that type of bond rating going into the
Yes.
near future as well, because we're very fiscally healthy. We had, they also did a great job, and we did not use any of the fund balance to offset anything in the operating budget, so it's a structurally balanced budget. And at the same time, we're incrementally getting these things done, so I'm pleased. I thank the board, I thank the Controller's Office.
Thank you.
And I believe we're moving in the right direction, and we'll get a lot accomplished with the way we're going.
I see Smithtown Landing on there for 300,000, I don't know what that could buy, but is that for the locker rooms?
That's buildings in there, yes.
That's sorely needed.
Yeah.
We're gonna be
Yeah, that's
talking to,
really-
we're gonna also incorporate some discussions with Lessing on joining us in some
Yeah.
capital improvements, so we've done that in the past, they've been willing to do that.
Because, that is a little jewel, that golf club.
Oh, for sure.
And the more we do there,
Well, there's also going to be, and this was, I guess, Mr. Rico and Supervisor Wareheim, is the elimination of the kiddie pool, but in its place, putting in a spray park.
kids like that.
They love the spray park, it saves on lifeguarding, I think it's safer for the children, and so that was kind of a
Chemicals.
smart way, chemicals, that was a smart way to approach it, is put in what the residents want and eliminate a potential hazard. It's called smart planning.
We would take out our pools and put in a spray park.
Talk to Tom, he loves spray parks.
I love it.
He loves
This
it.
is great. This is really the last one. This is the last part of town that doesn't have one, so it's perfect. It's happening.
Yeah, and at the club, by the way, one of the driving forces behind it was all the piping under the concrete down there for the kiddie pool. He's had problems for the last 5 years with that, and it's becoming costly to keep that pool open for the couple months in the summer, so, that's why we made a decision collectively. Let's just, it's 18 inches deep, I think the spray park will be much more
Oh,
popular.
they
than
love the
this.
spray park. Kids, I see
Yeah.
them at the
Yeah.
beach in the spray park. The parents go in it when it's hot.
So, any other questions on the capital?
No, it's great.
I apologize,
Good
I
job.
jumped the gun, I was gonna do this second, but do you have the information on the auditing or not yet? You're not prepared with that yet?
I'm prepared, but
You are.
that was a closed, it was executive session.
Yeah, for executive.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
yeah, that's why Kathy's here.
Okay. Very good, Don, Paul, Kathy, thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not have anything else other than executive.
Good.
Anybody else?
I'll be glad when today's over.
Mr. Marcellaro, good luck today.
Mr. Supervisor, thank you.
We wish you well. Okay, I move to go into executive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're good? Okay, I move to close executive session.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
And I move to close today's work session.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.